for a fresh outlook where we take a look at the most talked about topics of the week. I'm Nia Toschi. To all of our viewers and friends here in the U.S. and overseas, thanks for watching and welcome. We have a great show and a great panel of expert guests this week. We're going to start things off in Georgia, where Governor Nathan Deal signed a gun bill into law this week that has critics howling and supporters cheering. But does the new law pack some dangers along with it?
Second Amendment should never be an afterthought. It should reside at the forefront of our minds as we craft, pass, and sign laws. Our state has some of the best protections for gun owners in the United States, and today we strengthen those rights guaranteed by our country's most revered founding document.
This is House Bill 60.
And House Bill 60, or the Safe Carry Protection Act of 2014, has been nicknamed the Guns Everywhere bill by opponents. Now, to talk it out, we are joined by former White House aide Dee Dee Benkie, Dr. John Paitakes, a professor of criminal justice at Seton Hall University, and Dr. Alain Sanders from St. Peter's University. We welcome all of you and thank you for joining us. All right, we're going to start with just taking the temperature here in the room, and we're going to start things off with Dee Dee. We pretty much know your stance, but Dee Dee, if you could just pretty much sum up in one sentence your views on this bill.
I think it's the best thing to happen this year. It's a great law, safety, and good for gun rights. Good for America.
Dr. Paitakes.
Yeah, I have to disagree. I think it's a recipe for disaster, putting the guns in hands of people without the appropriate training. And, you know, guns kill. It's the #1 killer in the United States. So.
And Dr. Sanders.
Yes, I think guns should be strictly regulated, and I think this is a very dangerous law, and it will lead to more deaths.
Now, obviously, both of you gentlemen are professors on universities. Now, this law also allows people to carry in some schools, bars, churches, and even at the airport in Atlanta, which is the busiest in the world. So let's just break this down. Do you think that you need to carry a gun into a church?
Yes.
Okay, Dee Dee?
I think you should be able to carry a gun wherever you like. It's the Second Amendment. We have the right to bear arms, and there are bad people everywhere, even at church. Just recently, there were some people killed at a Jewish synagogue, right? They weren't Jewish, but they were killed there at a church gathering. It has happened many times. So, you know, and this is so important to Georgians, that Jimmy Carter's grandson running for governor against Deal agrees with it. He voted yes for this as well.
Now, Americans have, of course, in this country, we have the right to bear arms, but these are different times. And so, Dee Dee, I do have a question for you. These are different times because we do have Columbines, we do have the Newtowns now. Do you think that this is going to upset a lot of those folks that have been fighting to keep guns out of schools?
Well, I really don't think it's that different. Back in 1776, we were fighting tyrants, and here we are again with the government infringement, where, you know, look, the government can come and take guns, the government can do all these things, and the only thing that protects us are guns. And guns to protect against the bad guys. So I don't think it's that different at all.
I'm going to talk about law enforcement because a lot of the law enforcement officers have been speaking out about this and very, very harsh words. Dr. Paitakes, I know you spoke to some folks down in the Atlanta area. What have you heard?
Not in the Atlanta area. I talked to a national criminal justice expert on the use of force, and he's also a seasoned police officer and an academy director. He's very opposed to it. And, you know, the bottom line is when you say, you know, bring it into a church or whatever, let me give you an example. So let's say 5 or 6 people are carrying concealed weapons in a church. An active shooter comes in or whatever. They call the police. Now you got to distinguish who's the bad guy, who's the good guys. You know, so
but
everybody
if you don't have the
guns.
good guys with gun, there's one bad guy with gun, and they start picking people off,
Well,
just
know,
like
but,
in a movie theater.
Yeah,
so
but they're all dressed the
defense
same.
sets are sitting ducks.
Yeah, and they're not trained the same as police officers. What do you do to renew it? You have to qualify shooting and maybe take a couple-day seminar as compared to a police officer who's gone through an academy, and there's a prescribed procedure from the Attorney General's office on the use of force. Okay, so the gun's the last resort. Remember that. Also, let's keep in mind that the gun can be taken away from you. These people are not seasoned, experienced law enforcement people, so I'm carrying a concealed gun. Am I stronger than every person I confront? That gun can be taken away and used on me. So again, I think it's a very dangerous precedent in the arms of people who are not trained appropriately.
I'll give you a couple of statistics as well. 500,000 Georgia citizens now have a permit, about 5% of the population. Do you think, Dr. Sanders, that anyone will benefit from this bill?
Sure. Not gun purchasers, but gun sellers. Manufacturers of guns will benefit from this, but I don't think the people will benefit from this. One of the permissible uses is guns in a bar. Now, if we don't allow alcohol to mix with cars, because we have severe and strict laws pertaining to drunk driving, how can we then say that guns and alcohol actually mix? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and I'll ask this question because, Dee Dee, I see you shaking your head there. This bill also will lower the age from 21 to 18, and one of the things I've always had a problem with is, this is for active members of the military, if you can't go into a bar and have a beer, why should you be able to carry a gun? Your thoughts on that, Dee Dee?
Well, when can you sign up? It's 18, right?
Yes.
So you should be able to carry a gun. If anyone should be able to carry a gun, it's those in active military, just to your point. They're trained, so yeah, they should absolutely carry a gun. All Americans should be able to carry a gun. You got, look, with the Georgian law, to your point about schools, they would go through training. That's the point. Teachers and other staff members would go through training.
Well,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, preliminary training.
Well, you
It's not
don't
the
know
same
that. You
as
don't know
that.
what the extent of it is.
It's not going to be 24 weeks.
Well, look,
You say
Georgians
that.
want this law overwhelmingly. I mean, when Jimmy Carter's grandson votes for it, and he's a liberal, it's going to go.
Yeah.
Dr. Saunders?
Yes, well, look, the Supreme Court has said that there is a right to bear arms. The Supreme Court has also been very careful to say that reasonable restrictions are absolutely lawful. This is a law that is unreasonable. It allows guns to be carried in all kinds of places, places that might be prone to danger, and also places where there are many defenseless people. People with guns shoot indiscriminately when they're nervous. You have to be properly trained, as the professor has said. When people get nervous, when people get upset, they do unpredictable things. And to do unpredictable things with a dangerous weapon is one of the most severe and serious situations one can find oneself in.
Well, one of the things that alarmed me was that they, in certain areas of the airport, you can carry a gun. Now, on that one, does that even worry you at all?
Not
Dee
at
Dee?
all. No, because if you're trained and you have the license, you should be able to carry the gun wherever you like, because the bad guys will, for sure. And as far as you saying these are places of danger, that's exactly where you should have a gun. People should have the right to bear arms and protect themselves, period.
Yeah, but again,
Well, one of the most interesting facets of this law, by the way, is that the guns are allowed in all kinds of places, like churches and bars.
Good.
But one of the places it's not allowed is on the legislative floor of the legislature.
That's not true. In a lot of legislative floors, it is.
Well, I would like to see the legislators of Georgia put really their mouth
And
where
actually,
their rhetoric is,
are you
and
sure
their,
about
their
that?
lives
I
on the
thought
line.
that they were. I think that they are. Actually,
In
think you're wrong.
government,
If
in
there's no
government
security,
buildings,
I think.
Well, one of the things that they are saying is that this will cost taxpayers money. It could cost schools money. Where are they going to be able to get the money to have resource officers in schools?
It'll save money. No, the whole point is
But they
that
have to train new people to identify people with perhaps mental illness, to be trained in firearms. So there is a certain amount of taxpayer costs, especially when it comes to the schools.
Well, they were talking about in Georgia about the rural schools that didn't have the money for it, so they would do the training with the teachers and staff instead of hiring a guard of some sort. But actually, if you're going to spend money, government money, to protect children, I don't know, I can't think of a better way to do it.
Well, trained people, I think, is a better way. But, you know, let me give you another example. If two people got into an altercation and nobody's carrying a weapon and it gets physical or whatever, that's one thing. But now one person has a weapon on them, and what happens sometimes is if they're getting the worst of the argument, now they're more prone to use the weapon, so somebody ends up dying or whatever. So that's the danger of carrying a weapon. It can be used against you, or, you know, if you didn't have it, you wouldn't use it.
But that's the danger of not carrying a weapon. It can be used against you, and you don't have one. The good guys don't have
Right,
one.
but you're more apt to use it, I'm saying. You know, you can't use deadly force unless your life is threatened or somebody else's life.
Yeah, but if
okay?
somebody comes in and starts picking you up and starts shooting just for the heck of it, and this keeps happening, and there's nobody there to shoot back or to do something, well, guess what? A lot of people are going to die.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back a little bit to the cost to taxpayers. Before this, cities could prohibit firearms in government buildings by posting a sign. Now there must be screening entrances. So now you're going to have a new cost, and that is going to go directly to the taxpayers. So you don't think anybody's going to be up in arms over that, so to speak? How
Nice
about
pun
that?
there. Not in Georgia.
Not sure.
I would think so.
With money talks right now. Everybody's been struggling quite a bit over the last couple of years. Do you see that if this starts to be a pretty big amount, Dee Dee, do you think that they're going to see any backlash?
Well, I think in New York, but New York is basically a police state in New York City. In Georgia, no. Everyone's for it. Republicans, Democrats, they're united on this. That's why it's good that it's a states' rights issue.
Well,
That's
actually,
what Georgia wants.
I don't think all people are for it. I think polls have indicated that most Americans are in favor of reasonable gun restrictions. I don't think they're in favor of loose guns in America. So I think everybody understands the importance of the right to bear arms, but I think most people also understand the importance of regulating those guns so that they don't get in the hands of people that don't know how to use them properly or that have criminal intent.
But they
And
always
of
will,
course,
though.
you also have the straw purchasers. They get the guns down south and bring them up here to the east, and that's where we have a lot of the gang violence up here. So there has to be more regulation. I do agree with that. But what would you say to the families of, say, the children of Newtown?
I said, boy, if there'd been someone with a gun in the room who could have protected them, there'd be a lot of children alive right now.
Yeah. Well, there's no guarantee with that.
But we know it's guaranteed they're dead now.
Yeah, well, you know, I know. But the shooters, like we've said before, they're not, you know, trained appropriately, you know, to use the weapon or whatever.
Well, I think I think I would rather have somebody who had a gun that was on my side, that was trained somewhat, than nothing. When they're sending ducks and his poor children are shot to death.
Dr. Sanders?
Yes, well, I would say to the people of Newton and to the Sandy Hook children and their parents, the nation has disappointed you. We should have had gun laws, stricter gun laws enacted in the wake of that horrible tragedy. I'm a professor, you're a professor. We teach in classrooms all the time. You're always dealing in a situation where there are large crowds of people in the hallways, in the classrooms, going from one place to another. Having people use guns and having people have access to guns in an easy fashion is a recipe for injury and for death.
Yeah.
Well,
more preventative tactics, I can understand. You know, in other words, let's try and be proactive and try and prevent those kind of things from happening. But the reality is, you know, if somebody really wants to do a violent act, it's impossible to stop them.
Well, I
I was just
disagree
gonna
with you. You can't defend yourself. No,
Yes,
it's
you can defend
impossible if you
yourself.
don't have a gun. If it's
No, but-
impossible if you can't do anything
Well,
bad,
even so, if he
yeah.
has a gun, if there's 3 or 4 terrorists that come in, you know, if somebody wants to assassinate
That's very
somebody.
defeatist. So just let the bad guys come in and shoot everybody
No,
and
I'm
not
just
have
saying,
any defense?
You know,
Sorry.
Does it worry you on college campuses as opposed to 10 years ago? You both have been teaching for a number of years. Do you sense a different feel on the communities on the campus colleges?
I don't sense a different feel because the assumption is that nobody is carrying a gun. But if the assumption changed and there was a feeling that people were carrying guns, yes, I think there would be a feeling, and I think most students and most professors would feel threatened, not more secure, if they knew that there were people on campus that carry guns.
Yeah, the
Dr.
only people
Paitakes?
the only people that are allowed on campus are law enforcement, people with guns or whatever. So I don't see a need for it. And again, we have private security, we have local police. You know, it's a screened environment, so you know, it's fairly. We've never had any major tragedies there. So.
Now, in the Wild West, where my family has a home out in Arizona, if you do walk into a bar, you must check your gun. Do you think that that is a good idea, Dee Dee?
Well, it's better to be able to have a gun to take in and check than
Well,
nothing.
have you ever seen anybody get upset
Yeah, by the time you get
inside
to
a
it,
bar?
though,
And
Well, yeah, okay, I can understand that, but at least you have your guns there. So I guess if there's going to be a breakout, I guess you got a few feet to go and run and get it.
Oh, after you had a
But-
few drinks, right?
Well, look, the bad guys, you know, you keep forgetting, the bad guys will always have the guns. They will always be there. So if they're drinking, they lose their temper and they start shooting everybody. I want to be there with the gun to defend myself.
Even
Well,
though
I
you
I mean,
had-
I can't shoot him in the face, but I might shoot him in the leg, so
Well,
let's
they
stop.
don't
and we didn't
wound
even
you.
tackle the mental health issue. I mean, that's another whole subject. Dr. Paitakes, final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts are, I think we need stricter regulation. New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts have very strict laws to permission to carry. I would have a hard time getting a permit to carry, even though a probation officer, former parole, I'm a certified police academy instructor. Unless my life is being threatened or I'm carrying large sums of money, I wouldn't be able to get it, you know.
Do you think it should be universal within the United States?
I think so, yeah. I mean, you know.
Dr. Sanders, final thoughts?
Yes, well, I think a lot of people might have some second thoughts about going down to Georgia for various events and various functions, knowing that guns are more freely in use and can be carried more easily. I think a lot of people would have some second thoughts. I know I would.
And if we do see any kind of an incident, what do you think that will happen with this law? Do you think that it will ever be reversed? Dee Dee?
Never. None in Georgia, forget it. And I hope more states follow suit with Georgia. Because we have the right to bear arms, that's what we're supposed to have. And we've got more shootings now, more bad people, more crazy people with these outbreaks, so we should be able to defend ourselves, period.
Well, we thank
Good for
everybody for
Georgia.
their thoughts on this. Dr. Paitakes, great to see you again.
Thank you.
And stick around, we'll be right back, everyone. Don't go away. We're going to travel to Michigan in our next segment, where we will ask the question, did the Supreme Court end affirmative action at the college level? We'll be right back.